Hello, everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in to The Local Lens. This is the podcast from the Powell County Health Department and Kentucky Rio, where we go inside our community's experience with the drug epidemic. Our guest on the show this week is a guy named Richard Penick, and he is a peer support specialist based in Ashland, Kentucky. And he spent some time working at the emergency department in one of the hospitals up there. Now, if you're familiar with our show, then you know a peer support specialist is somebody that has lived experience, and they're using that lived experience to help guide other people through the recovery process. And Richard is doing that in a hospital setting, first contact with people when they're right in crisis mode. Now, we're going to get into more details of what that looks like in the hospital in our upcoming episode that is also with Richard. But for this episode, we're just going to be focusing on who Richard Penick is, because he's got an incredible story. This guy is as resilient as they come. He's tough as leather, and he's so cool. Such a cool guy. Well, thank you for tuning in to The Local Lens. I'm your host, Nate Brooks. These are our people using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.
My name is Richard Penick. I am Pathways Peer Support, part of the outreach services in Ashland, Kentucky. My home base is 22nd Street in Ashland. I work at King's Daughters Hospital. I'm part of the wellness recovery team at King's Daughters Hospital. The wellness recovery team is a program that the hospital started a couple years ago. We have an inpatient and outpatient. My primary role on that team is in the emergency department, and so I work in the emergency department. Anybody that emergency room. For those of y'all. So my role is anybody that comes into the emergency department that struggles with addiction, some mental health. I talk to them, listen, try to get to know them, link them to services.
And this is an incredible job that he is at the hospital, at the emergency department, just ready to help people get connected to resources so that they can just do that while they're already getting this medical help. They're not having to go find the help outside afterwards on their own, because Richard is there already to offer the help.
So I'm originally from a place called Dry Ridge, Kentucky.
Okay.
It's between Lexington and Cincinnati.
Okay.
45 minutes north of Lexington, 30 minutes south of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's 45 minutes from Louisville. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm from, born and raised.
Okay.
When you hit the wet holler, just go to the top of the hill, you'll find Dry Ridge.
There you go.
So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So, are you a Tudor's Biscuit World fan?
Recently, since I moved to Ashland, I like it.
Yeah.
You know.
How long have you been in Ashland?
3 years.
Okay.
Roughly 3 years. 2000. Yeah. The winter 2018-19 winter.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to town on behalf.
Yeah, man. I like it, man. I've created me built me a life there, man. You know, it's like home. Yeah. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, dude.
So.
Good. And so let's see. We'll briefly cover your past for a second.
Okay.
So you are a peer support specialist.
Peer support specialist. You know, we were talking about this before we started. I have a story. God has a testimony in my life, and there are a lot of stories within a story.
Yeah.
You know, I could tell my story a lot of different ways from a lot of different perspectives, depending on who I'm talking to and what I want to say. Gist of it for those out there struggling, or for people wondering, if I've been there doing that, and if you ain't been there doing that, you really don't know what it's about.
Yeah.
And if you have, I don't have to tell you. I lived that way for a long time. Grew up in Dry Ridge. Thankfully, I had some grandparents and a family that taught me at a very early age Jesus loves me. And as both my parents were wild. As I grew up into my teens and early 20s, man, I was wilder than heck. I thought I was having a good time, lots of drinking and partying and all the stuff that comes along with the lifestyle. And good times, highs and lows. As I hit in my 30s, it turned on me. caught the fear, I like to say. Something broke inside me, and I'm not for sure what it was, but around that time period, the drug use got real heavy, and I'd gotten married. At one point, I was a supervisor at a warehouse, had about a 30-man crew. I'm a full-time college student. I'd get married. I'm a functioning hardcore partier for years, and I'm juggling all of this, and I decided to take a break, man, and I couldn't. It had me, and I'd never been had before.
Yeah.
And something broke inside me, man. And something happens when you, for the first time in my life, I had a wife and a little baby girl that I loved more than myself, and I was really trying. I was aware enough to know that something had to stop.
Yeah.
And I lacked the power to be able to do it myself. And man, that took, when I broke in that time period, something broke inside me, and it got dark for me after that. It just, I started this downward spiral, and it got really dark throughout my 30s and the next I don't know, half a decade or so.
Yeah.
And homelessness, overdoses, jail, and I've been in and out of jail, obviously, but I don't know what I'll say. Got really dark, and then when it turned on me there in my 30s, man, I was on the first time I shot up. My stepmom shot me up when I was 17, cocaine, bro.
Wow.
And and so I was on a needle on and off my whole adult life, and in love with the needle. Mm-hmm. And when I got onto heroin in my early 30s, which is really what broke me, man, that was the first time in my life, and I didn't even like that drug. Yeah. That was the first time in my life that, man, I couldn't put something down.
If you didn't like it, why'd you?
Man, well, I'll say it was my least favorite, bro, because it really liked me, man.
Oh.
It was my least favorite. Yeah. I always get up and go, man. Like, why we want to nod out, lay around, and be like, I was a go hard, work hard, party hard, play hard, just have a good time. Yeah. Go. Yeah. And it was my least favorite. Yeah. And it's and so I ended up, when I lost everything there, I ended up homeless from like 2012 to 2019, pretty much. Sure. Yeah, homeless. When I say homeless, I didn't realize it at the time. I was homeless at the time. You're living out of hotels, you're couch surfing. Mm-hmm. I did feel homeless when I was camping out in the woods for those periods. Yeah. And towards the end of it, man, I fixed up a really nice chicken coop for a couple months. Yeah. You're feeling homeless at those points. Yeah. But, it took me a long time to get my head around the fact all that couch surfing and hotel rooms and stuff like that. Like I was, I'm in Tennessee working 2 full-time jobs, not sleeping, camping out in the woods. Yeah. Taking showers at the community center. Yeah.
2 full-time jobs too. Where's the money going on that?
It's going every other week I get a hotel room, and it's partying. Yeah. It's partying. Yeah. I completely had given up on myself, on life. My family was all gone, everybody was gone. I was completely alone. I gave up, man. And the turning point for me was I was in Tennessee. I was walking the street one day looking for trouble, I guess. I don't know what I was doing. And actually a little lady named Jill Berry approached me. And I hadn't slept. You may or may not believe this, but my last little run there in Tennessee, after I was awake for almost 9 weeks. Oh my goodness. It sounds. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't experienced it. Yeah. I used to tell the weeks apart by, if I was staying, I began to track my days by hotel room, woods. And if I attempted to sleep, I would get into a bed. That way I could account for if I tried to sleep or not. Yeah. And so I tell you this, not to say all that, but I tell you this because I looked rough, bro. I had to look rough. And this lady came up to me and told me that Jesus loved me and asked me if I was all right. And for reasons I don't know, she began to talk to me, asked me if I had some time, and we sit down and just talked for about like a half an hour, 45 minutes. She was on a lunch break or something. She was a sweet lady. I remember her name, like I said, Jill Berry. And she took my number and talked to me. And about a week later, she called me up and gave me another man's number who owned a little rehab in Tennessee. called Mercy House. And I called that dude. I was at the end of my rope, man. I was at the brink, and I called that guy. And that act of love, man. I went there, and that was the beginning of my road to recovery.
Yeah.
And that was 2015.
Yeah.
And it was 2015. And that began the process of recovery for me there. And it was a real process, discovering mercy, discovering grace. I spent 3 months there. Thought I was good. Left. Wasn't very long after that. I was high again. A few months after that, I just totally. They were going off the deep end again. I called somebody up, said I had to get out of there. I got a ride to a bus station and back to Kentucky. So I got to Tennessee with nothing but a bag. I went to a rehab, stayed down there 2 weeks, and took off. This was years ago, 2012 or so. And so here I was 3 or 4 years later, leaving Tennessee, nothing but a bag, back to Kentucky. Yeah. Trying to get my head right. Again, this is where I found the chicken coop and stuff. I had several warrants out for my arrest.
What was this thing made of?
It was an old wooden chicken coop, bro.
Yeah. You just moved into a chicken coop.
Yeah. So I got back to Kentucky. I had several warrants, and so I was camping out. I called my old man up. I kind of showed up. They didn't feel comfortable with me staying there. I stayed there for a minute, but you got to understand, my family hadn't seen me in like 6 years. 5 years, right? Yeah. 5 years or something. Yeah. This was 2016. The last time they'd seen me was around 2011, 12. They all thought I was dead or in prison.
Yeah.
I showed up. Man, I showed up in the same state I left.
Yeah.
So everybody's really very guarded with me.
Yeah.
And so there was I was staying on the back of his farm for a couple days, a week, and then my old man, my uncle, my family logs timber. My grandfather's sawmill, log timber, tobacco, cattle, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Built a sawmill by the time I was born, so I grew up with a chainsaw in my hand, working on and so we log timber and everything. So I'm logging in the woods, camping out on the farm, and then we're at work one day. My stepmother calls, and the state police is out there wanting to raid the farm, looking for me. They got a tip that I was back in town.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't stay there anymore. Well, I called him my uncle. He was a gentleman who had began to work with my grandfather when he was 18.
Okay.
And he was about 10 years older than me. And so my whole life, from the time I was like 10, he was like an uncle to me, And so I called him my uncle. He told me I could stay at his place. He had a chicken coop.
Yeah.
And so I went out there and I cleaned the thing out, and we, remodeled it and stuff, and I cleaned it out, and I got like a little cot put in there.
Yeah.
And I had me a little radio.
Yeah.
And
and that's the reason I'm curious about this is because like a lot of families just I feel like don't know how to respond to like having one of their own like kind of going rogue, and that's the only time I've ever heard somebody say that they're staying in the chicken coop for it. But I mean, that's like somebody doing what they can while also keeping a safe distance, because like you can't blame them for being guarded, right? Like
absolutely.
How was that getting back around your family with that? Like, was there the way that they treated you? Is that something you would recommend to other families in that, or?
No, you're talking about when different family treated me differently.
Okay.
Most of my family love, man. One of the things I've learned the most about is love in this process of recovery. Mm-hmm. It is an art, really learning about love and what real love is. I used to love people by getting them well. I used to love people by killing them. That was the acts of love that I showed people, keeping them well and getting them high and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so throughout my addiction, I had family and I talk about this with family members. It is so, even now in recovery, I have a doctorate in addiction. I'm working on a master's in recovery. And if it was someone that I loved and I'm emotionally invested in, it's totally different. You know, because I'm emotionally invested in that person. It is it's an art trying to find the balance of not enabling and loving.
Yeah.
And you really need support yourself. So most of the people in my family either completely disowned or enabled me. Paid for doctors and and gas money and master liar. I didn't start that way, but the drugs, man, I turned into a liar, manipulator, all that stuff. And you know, my father, who was in recovery at the time, like my stepmom at 25 years, my father 20, right? Mm-hmm. He was the one that, even though I was angry, didn't like him a whole lot back then. Man, I learned a lot by watching him, the way he dealt with me. He wouldn't give me any money. He wouldn't give me a ride. The only place he'd give me a ride to is the treatment. Yeah. He'd come by and check on me, ask me how I was doing, give me a hug, kick me in the butt, that kind of stuff, encourage me. I had a needle break off in my arm one time. Ended up almost dying. They went to pour it out, and it got swept down my vein. Ended up going into a 6-hour vascular surgery. Yeah. I woke up. He was standing at the foot of my bed. You know, it was supposed to be a 20-minute outpatient surgery, and 6.5 hours later, I woke up and my old man was standing there. Yeah. You know, and stuff like that. But so he found that balance where he wouldn't give me money. But he would drive me. He's the one that took me to Tennessee. Yeah. Wouldn't do nothing for me. Call him up, but like, hey, I got a bed in Tennessee if you'll drive me there. Literally showed up within that morning, him and my stepmom, and drove me 6 hours to Tennessee to a facility. Yeah. You know?
And it's having this lived experience that makes a peer support specialist so valuable, because Richard has seen this balance and that there needs to be a balance.
I've been on both sides of it. Yeah, I've been the addict with the family, trying to figure it out, and then I was married and I had a wife that I took down the road with me, and when I started trying to get better, right, I became her worst enemy, trying to do the same thing, man, and trying to thinking I could. It took me a while to realize that the only thing I could do is rescue. I couldn't save. Right? Only I do is we call it the gift of desperation. Okay. We call it the gift of repentance and the knowledge of truth, right? There is it is a journey, God romancing, allowing someone into a place where they are ready to let go and surrender, man. Yeah. And every person's different. We have to, as long as I'm comfortable and I got shelter and food and everything I need and I can get high, what motivation do I have to stop? Mm-hmm. You know, and so I had to get into a place in my life where I had lost enough. The pain had got so uncomfortable that I was willing to do something different. Yeah. And that desperation is a gift. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the act of love is allowing someone to get there. Yeah. Not going to help.
But then the fear of that on the other side too.
What's going to happen? Yeah. If I don't, or they might do this and they might do that. Yeah. And so for a long time, my wife almost got to that place, and I would come in that 11th hour thinking she was ready, and she would get better for a moment and then fade back out, and it was like she'd be on fire, and God be rolling up a thunderstorm, and I had my little garden hose and I'd run over and put it out. Yeah. And when I finally had my own relationship enough where I trusted Him and let Him deal with her, I kept my garden hose out of the equation. I got to watch Him roll up and put that storm out, or put that fire out, and her get the gift that He was trying to give her. And you can't. And so my point is that I thought about that when you were talking about allowing someone to go through the things they need to go through to get ready to change it, and whether it's jail or homelessness or whatever it is. Yeah. And it's hard when you're a loved one and family. You're emotionally invested.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And it's so.
So let me ask you this then too. So you work as a peer support specialist. That is a professional thing that you do. That I guess you can get very emotionally invested. You don't have to necessarily. Do you see like the work that needs to be done in recovery is like what is the balance of having somebody that is emotionally invested? So if I were looking for treatment, should I be turning to people that are going to be emotionally invested in it, or should I turn to people that are going to approach it like very rigidly, scientifically, like this is what you need by the paper?
I wouldn't say either of those extremes, you know?
Yeah.
If I was somebody who wanted help, man, I would just go get help.
Yeah.
I would get help.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you asking any questions on
Bro,
where
help.
from?
Yeah, get help.
Yeah.
Get help. Go to your local hospital. Go to your local mental health provider. Go to somebody. Go to an AA meeting. Go to a meeting and say, "Hey, I need help. Please help me." Mm-hmm. And be willing to take the help. It may not be the help you want. It may not, but it might be the help you need. And a lot of times, what we need and what we want aren't the same thing. And just be willing to go. And there's some things I talk to people about when they go to facilities and stuff. There's going to be rules you don't like and don't want to follow. It may not make any sense. There's going to be people there maybe that are not there for the right reasons. They're getting a paycheck. And there's going to be other clients that may be there for the wrong reasons and sufficing the court. But there's also going to be people that work there that love you and want the best for you and that are going to be amazing in your path. And there's going to be other clients there that are there for the same reasons as you to get better. And so chew on the meat and spit out the bone. Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
You remember why you're there. Stay focused. Stay seeking. The only way to not get what I got is to quit. Yeah. I started in 2015. It's now 2022.
Yeah.
I started in 2015. I didn't use the last time until 2018.
Yeah.
And I was a guy that was all the way wanting this, man. Like, I really wanted it. I was miserable, and I was ready to end my life. I wanted someone to end it for me. I didn't want to be a coward and do it myself. That's where I started. Wouldn't pray, I told you. And I have been romanced on this path and learned a lot of hard mistakes and but we don't give up, man. That's what we bring to it, right? God does his thing. It takes time. Those of us that are recovering, what we bring to this equation is commitment. We don't give up.
Yeah.
The people that make it, the people that make it, and that, because recovery is resurrection of life. It's freedom. Mm-hmm. Freedom from the drugs and alcohol, freedom from the relationships, freedom from needing another person, place, or thing, freedom from needing a fancy car, big bank account, freedom from needing validation from other people, freedom from worrying about worry and fear, freedom from concern about what other people think or say about you, freedom to be yourself. Just be the person God created you to be, and to live life and be in the moment. And that's what this is. It's resurrection of life. And so anybody that has went from that moment of desperation to freedom, the two qualities I've seen those individuals have is spiritual relationship and commitment, because it's hard.
Yeah.
And we need a power greater than ourselves, and we just have to stay committed. You know. So
hey, cheers to it, man. Yeah.
Mouthful, I know. When I started this process in 2006 and 2015, I was just whooped. It was like, I'm whooped. I'm in Tennessee. I'm whooped, man. I give it. I tried every which way to do this, and I couldn't. 16, I got back to Kentucky. I went to Chicago to a rehab up there. And so I'm up there, and I did not think it was possible for me. I was so over the heroin and meth. You could not have convinced me that I would not want to smoke a joint or take a drink of bourbon.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible. I did not think that I could feel so good and be happy and inside of life that I would not want the candles on the cake. Because that's what it was to me. Yeah. My triggers when I was depressed was when life was good.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, celebrate.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have convinced me. But I knew at that point that I discovered that getting out of my head, any type of getting high in any way, the wheels always came off. I didn't know when, but they always came off.
Would.
Yeah, they would. And so, I wanted to really be a husband and a father and a friend. I wanted that. I didn't even have the words for. And only chance I had, I wanted to know if it was real. I really wanted to know if it was possible. And I didn't want to wake up in 5 years and be like, you didn't really try hard enough, bro. You can lie to everybody else, but yourself, man, you know, you kind of weaked out.
Yeah.
And so I went into this, and understand, I still didn't use the last time till 2 years later, and the police intervened even then, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but even in 2016, I made that commitment, like, I want to know if I can walk on water.
Yeah.
And the only way to find out is to risk drowning, you know. And so stepping out the boat, and so I could not, back then I couldn't fathom the way I feel on the inside today. We start out wanting to feel better, and God throughout this process does a miracle. Says, and it's page 25 again, and there's a solution, right? We have absolute certainty that God has come into our hearts and lives in a way that is indeed miraculous. Yeah. He has done for us what we could not do for ourselves. So in all of this hard work I'm putting in, and changing my thinking, and dealing with my feelings and my emotions, and processing all of this stuff, He does this miracle, man, in our heart and our mind, and sets us free. Yeah. Sets us free, and we find peace and contentment finally, and best feeling I ever felt in my life, man. And I am 100%, I'm absolutely certain, anybody taste what I have found, it's all they want. Yeah. If they'll just stay long enough to taste it. Anybody out there struggling, or has a family member struggling? 606-324-1141.
All right, one more time for us so we can...
606-324-1141, and 1-800-562-8909. Now that 1-800 number is a crisis line. So you can be in crisis, and you can call somebody 24/7. You will get someone to answer that phone. A peer will answer that phone that can listen to you, relate and understand, and hook you up with services. If you're a family member or a loved one that calls that, whoever answers that phone can guide you to the services you're looking for or need, whether it be outpatient, inpatient, whatever. So.
Well, that is all the time that we have for you all today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Local Lens with Richard Penick. Now that we've gotten to know this guy, we're going to take our next episode and learn more about what he is actually doing now, which has to do with walking with people and getting them through that very long process of recovery. And in reality, recovery is a never-ending process. But he's one of the people walking through the beginning of that process. He's meeting people at the emergency department when they come in full crisis mode. So I do encourage you to check back in for the next episode that comes out from us, because we really go into a lot of what he sees there and the experience of addressing these substance abuse issues and these mental health issues at the hospital itself. It really seems to be a game changer, and it seems like Pathways and the whole team at King's Daughters is paving the way for the rest of Kentucky, showing us a way that we can move forward and change our healthcare system so that it can better serve and meet the needs of our people. Thank you all once again for tuning in, and I would also like to give a huge thank you to Richard Penick for taking the time to come on our show. You have an awesome story, man. You are a picture of resilience for people, and I hope people take it to heart. And I would also like to thank WSKV for broadcasting the show for us, and also the Health Department in Kentucky Rio for sponsoring the show. This is The Local Lens. These are our people, using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.